Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you work, you're just spinning your wheels, stuck in the same financial place year after year? Having gone from six figures of debt to selling millions as an entrepreneur, I've experienced firsthand all of the middle class habits that keep people in the financial rat race. And it wasn't until I discovered what these habits were and how to fix them that I actually broke free and started building wealth. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what these habits are and why they're keeping you stuck, and most importantly, how you can escape them and actually start building real financial freedom. Most people aren't trapped in the rat race because they're lazy or because they're not trying hard enough. They're trapped because of a built-in survival mechanism wiring the brain. Imagine that you've been given a map to buried treasure as a kid. Your parents, teachers, everyone around you told you, follow this map and one day you'll find wealth and security. And so you spend your whole life following it, working hard, saving money, avoiding debt, maybe even buying a house, believing you're on the right path. But what if the map was wrong? What if the treasure was never buried where they told you to look? Because of the way our brains are wired, if someone shows you a different map that actually leads to wealth, you'd probably ignore it. Not because it's wrong, but because admitting the map was flawed means accepting that you've been digging in the wrong place for years. And that's uncomfortable. It's called confirmation bias. It's a subconscious tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms what you already believe, ignoring and dismissing anything that challenges that belief. And so what you have to do is you have to learn to train your brain to question what it usually accepts as truth. Which leads me to habit number 1. This is the first habit that the middle class believe to be true. Habit number 1. Most people believe they have job security, and yet they're one decision away from losing everything. And it's happening every day. Restructuring, layoffs, downsizing, all dressed up in corporate language, but the outcome is the same. Your future was never yours to begin with. I remember talking to a guy, we'll call him Mike, 15 years in the same company. He did everything right. He showed up early, stayed late, never made waves, and then one Monday morning, layoff. He didn't get a thank you. He didn't get a parachute. He got a cardboard box and 2 weeks of severance. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, "I thought I was secure." That's the illusion. The system trains you to equate obedience with safety. Get good grades, get a degree, get a job, and then keep your head down, don't ask too many questions, and hope they take care of you. But here's what's really happening. You're conditioned to believe in the paycheck promise. The lie that if you just work hard enough, the system will reward you. But that model wasn't designed to make you free. It was designed to make you predictable. It rewards consistency, not creativity. It pays you just enough to stay, but not enough to grow. And when your usefulness ends, so does the paycheck. Meanwhile, wealthy people play a different game. They don't wait for raises, they create cash flow. They don't trade time for dollars, they build systems, ownership, equity. They understand that if income relies on your continued presence, you're not secure, you're vulnerable. So how do we rewire this? Here's a tactical way to rewire this in your mind. Install the security score. Each month, ask yourself this question. How much of my income came from work that I didn't personally do this week? Even if the number's 0, track it. Why? Because what you track, your brain prioritizes. It brings subconscious focus to leverage over labor. Next, challenge yourself to increase that number by just 5% in the next 30 days. This could be through affiliate income, this could be through digital products, licensing, referrals, automated systems. Even a small win, $20 that came while you were sleeping, rewires your brain. It teaches you to expect income without presence. And that's how you begin to break the addiction to the paycheck promise. Habit number 2. If you were handed a loaded tool that could build wealth, but you'd only been ever trained to fear it, would you ever pick it up? Most people wouldn't because they were taught how to use it. They were just taught not to. I worked with a woman once, we'll call her Renee. She was sharp, disciplined, and serious about building a financial future. But when I asked her what was holding her back, she said, "I just have all this debt. I really want to pay off all my debt first." And when I asked her about the debt, I asked her what it was. Was it credit card? She said, no. She said, I actually have this low interest business loan, untouched capital. Regret that I took out the loan and now I need to pay it off. And I said, you could use that capital, right? You could use that in your business. I said, what would happen if you actually just used that money to build something that generated income instead of just paying it off? And she said, well, I guess I never thought about it like that. And it's not her fault. She's been trained, like most of the middle class, that debt is dangerous and that borrowing money is a last resort and that owing equals failure. But there are actually two kinds of debt. There's consumption debt, which bleeds your bank account, and there's strategic debt, which builds your future. See, the middle class was conditioned to destroy all debt, regardless of the context. Wealthy people understand that you can deploy debt like a precision tool. They don't say, I don't want to owe anybody. They say, how can someone else's money multiply my money? They don't fear debt, they understand it. Because if you believe all debt is bad, you're rejecting one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to you. And that rejection doesn't make you free, it just keeps you stuck. And so that habit is called debt destruction. The subconscious pattern of avoiding leverage because you've been taught to fear it. It feels responsible, but it's actually restrictive. So how can we rewire this middle class belief? Install what I call the asset filter. Before you eliminate debt, ask yourself, did this debt buy me an asset or an expense? If it bought you an asset, something that produces income, value, or equity, you may not need to destroy it right away. You might just need to optimize it. But if it bought you an expense, this was a car, clothes, gadget, create a plan to eliminate it while simultaneously building your next stream of cash flow. See, this creates what we call in behavioral science dual path strategy. You're rewiring your brain to evaluate money through the lens of utility, not emotion. Habit number 3. What would happen if you trained a lion to believe it was a house cat? You feed it in a cage, you never let it hunt, you punish it anytime it growls, and eventually it stops acting like a lion. It lies around tame, waiting for someone to feed it, but it's still a lion. The strength never left, it was just suppressed. See, that's exactly what happens to most people when it comes to money, success, to opportunities. From a very young age, we've been trained, be realistic, don't ask for too much. Money doesn't grow on trees. And that message is reinforced through repetition, emotion, authority. 3 elements that form core programming in your subconscious mind. And the result is people stop dreaming. They settle for what they think they can get. They assume that the real money and the real freedom and the real success are reserved for someone else. You can spot this programming a mile away. They second guess every investment in themselves. They're afraid to raise their rates. They assume risk is dangerous instead of understanding that risk is where growth lives. They say, I can't afford it, without exploring every option. This is one of the most dangerous habits programmed into the middle class, and it's called scarcity syndrome, a deeply ingrained mental and emotional pattern that causes individuals to perceive resources such as money, opportunities, time, and success as limited, fixed, and difficult to access. So here's a way to rewire this pattern in your mind. Use a framework of pattern interrupt plus reframe. Every time you catch yourself saying or thinking something like, I can't afford that, that's too much, I don't have enough, interrupt the thought out loud. Say cancel, and then replace it with how can I create the resource for this? Why? Because interrupting a subconscious pattern out loud gives your conscious brain a chance to take back control. It creates a micro gap in the default programming, just enough space to install a new one. And then repetition of this tactic rewires the association from limitation to resourcefulness, which leads me to the next habit that I want you to think about. If you had to crank a lever for every 10 minutes just to keep the lights on, how long would you last? Most people live in this exact system with their career and their finances. They wake up, they clock in, they trade 8 hours for just enough to survive. And when life demands more bills, more needs, more pressure, what do? They don't change the system, they just pull the lever harder. Overtime, second job, late nights, side hustles. But it's all built on the same formula. More hours equals more money. So here's the psychological trap this model feels productive. it feels like progress because your brain gets this dopamine hit from the paycheck in exchange for the effort you put in. But what's really happening? You're reinforcing dependency. You're installing a belief, a subconscious pattern in your mind that says, I only earn when I exert. I only grow when I grind. And that program becomes permanent in the mind. The middle class builds income that needs them constantly. Wealthy people build income that replaces them strategically. Here's the catch. Many people think they're building businesses, but if you actually look at it, if the system collapses when you take a break from the business, you haven't built a business, you haven't built wealth, you've built a glorified job with way more risk and fewer benefits. This is one of the most damaging wealth habits the middle class have been conditioned to believe, and I call this worker wealth, is the idea that working more is the only way to earn more. That effort alone creates the income. That freedom comes after 40 years of labor, if you're lucky. And so how can we tactically shift this? Use the one-to-many map. Step 1, list your current income activities, everything you do to make money, job, side hustle, anything. Step 2, label each one as either one-to-one, so you get paid once per hour or task, and then label the other group as one-to-many. Meaning these are things you get paid multiple times from one effort. Courses, assets, systems, referrals, automation. Then step 3, set a 30-day target to move one income activity from one-to-one to one-to-many. So an example could be turning coaching calls into a group program, turn a repeated explanation into a training video, turn a skill into a digital product. This isn't about quitting your job tomorrow. It's about rewiring your reward system in your brain and training your mind to value leverage over labor. Because the moment your subconscious sees that value can be created without time being depleted, it starts looking for it everywhere. And that's when the real shift starts to happen. Next habit. Let me ask you something. If the mission was a life or death, would you insist on doing it all yourself? Would you be the strategist, the operator, the comms guy, the medic, the sniper all at once? Well, of course not. Because in the real world, trying to do everything yourself is the fastest way to fail the mission. And yet this is exactly what most people try to do when they're trying to build wealth. They wear every hat, run every task, design every post, and they tell themselves, this is just what it takes. In fact, there's psychology behind why you feel this way. Because every time you accomplish a task yourself, your brain gets a small hit of dopamine and you feel productive. But those dopamine hits are actually a trap because they reinforce the belief that you are the system. And if you are the system, that system can't grow beyond you. This is why so many people stay stuck. The middle class tries to learn every skill, manage every detail, avoid spending money on help because they've been conditioned to be good employees for so long. And by being good employee, I mean giving away all of your time and hard work to somebody else. They think they have to put in a lot of their own time in order to reap results. But wealthy people don't confuse effort with progress. They know their zone of genius. And then they build teams and systems all around it. This is the middle class habit I call solo struggle. It's the subconscious belief that if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. And by being good employee, I mean giving away all of your time and hard work to somebody else. They think they have to put in a lot of their own time in order to reap results. But wealthy people don't confuse effort with progress. They know their zone of genius. And then they build teams and systems all around it. This is the middle class habit I call solo struggle. It's the subconscious belief that if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. And it creates a ceiling on your growth and a ceiling of burnout, and it's all disguised as hustle. So how do we tactically fix this? Use something I call the zone filter protocol. Step 1, list your weekly tasks. Everything you do, admin, creative, sales, tech, all of it. Step 2, label each task as either Z for zone of genius, your highest value core skill, R for replaceable, someone else can do this at 80% as well as or better than you, and L, low leverage, busy work, distractions, bottlenecks. Step 3, ruthlessly eliminate or delegate one L or R task every week. Hire it, automate it, outsource it, or delete it. This reconditions your brain to trust leverage. Habit number 6. Okay, let me ask you something. If someone offered to give you a golden goose, but only if you waited 6 months to see the first egg. Would you wait? Or would you buy a golden egg-shaped balloon instead? See, that's the decision most people make every single day. They don't realize it. So let me show you what I mean. A few years ago, I read about 2 employees from a corporate group, 2 employees that were standing out. We'll just call them Lisa and Jordan. Lisa said she'd been wanting to start her own consultancy on the side, but she had all this knowledge she'd been learning, all these contacts she'd been building, and even picked out the name for the business. But when she was asked what was stopping her, she said, I just can't invest right now. I just bought these concert tickets. I've got a lot of things to pay down. I've upgraded my laptop, and honestly, I just don't have a lot. Plus, I've got this designer bag I've been wanting to buy for months. And she said it without shame. She said it like it just made sense. Jordan, on the other hand, had already launched his side hustle months earlier. He was still driving an old car. He hadn't taken a vacation in over a year and had turned down every new gadget his friends were raving about. Why? Because he said, I'd rather build something now that pays me forever than keep buying stuff that makes me feel good for 5 minutes. See, this is the difference. It's the same company, same salary, 2 radically different thinking from these employees. Because here's the truth. Most people aren't broke because of what they earn. They're broke because of how they think. They prioritize what feels good over what builds value in the future. They chase quick dopamine over long-term dividends. It's not a financial gap, it's a focus gap. Which brings me to the name of the habit which is what I call the habit broke brain. It's a pattern where the mind is trained to seek comfort, validation, and instant reward at the cost of lasting freedom. And so here's how you can actually rewire this part of your brain quickly. I call this the cost or seed question. Before you buy anything, ask yourself, is this a cost or is it a seed? A cost ends after you swipe the card. A seed grows. Train your brain to favor decisions that plant, not just please. Do this long enough and your subconscious begins to associate money with power and not just instant pleasure. And that's when your brain begins to actually shift. So there you have it. These are the 6 middle-class habits that keep people stuck in the rat race. If you liked this video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you like the mindset side of finance, entrepreneurship, and achievement. And I'll see you on the next one.